In the heart of the serene Greenhaven Cemetery, I held the title of cemetery manager. My name is Michael, a man in his 30s with a passion for spirituality and a strong connection with the souls that rested within the cemetery grounds. My role involved assisting guests and bereaved family members in setting up funerals and managing plot sales. One day, a man named Carlos came to my office, seeking a final resting place for his ailing father, Diego. Carlos, a warm-hearted Hispanic man with a thick accent, showed me pictures of Diego, a kind and gentle soul who appeared much younger than his years suggested. It pained Carlos to see his father suffer, but he wanted to ensure that Diego found peace in a beautiful corner of Greenhaven Cemetery. As fate would have it, Diego's time on Earth drew to a close that very week, and Carlos arranged for his father's funeral service amidst a stormy day. Some believed it to be a sign of good fortune, and I could sense that Carlos, a spiritual man himself, embraced this idea wholeheartedly. On the day of the funeral, the procession paused in front of the cemetery's main office building briefly. I stepped outside under the front awning to catch a glimpse of Carlos in the car behind the hearse. Our eyes met, and we exchanged a nod of understanding amidst the raindrops. The rain subsided enough to proceed with the burial ceremony. As part of my duty to ensure a smooth funeral service, I stood with my umbrella, watching over the solemn occasion. The skies wept as we bid farewell to Diego, and the atmosphere felt both heavy and peaceful. Once the funeral concluded, I continued with my tasks, conducting laps around the cemetery in my pickup truck, surveying the area as I did multiple times a day. My responsibilities also included managing paperwork and closing the cemetery by 5:30 p.m. As the afternoon waned, I drove around the cemetery one last time, ensuring that all visitors had departed. The dark clouds made it feel like evening already, despite it being an early March day. The rain had stopped, but the air was still heavy with moisture. While returning to my office, I caught sight of someone hastily walking down one of the lanes between tombstones. The figure then turned and disappeared behind a hedge. Curious and mindful of the closing time, I honked my horn to signal that the cemetery was closing soon, but the person remained out of sight. I decided to investigate further and, carrying my umbrella, ventured towards the hedge. Peering beyond it, I found myself looking down a long row of tombstones on one side, with neatly trimmed hedges on the other. There was no sign of the person I had seen earlier. For the next 20 minutes, I scoured the area in the rain, hoping to find the elusive visitor. However, it seemed like they had vanished into thin air. With a sense of perplexity, I returned to my office and reviewed the CCTV footage. Unfortunately, the storm had made it difficult to see anything clearly, and I couldn't find any evidence of the mysterious person's presence. I tried to shake off the eerie feeling and continued with my tasks, juggling paperwork while keeping an eye on the security cameras. Suddenly, the front door to the visitation room slammed shut with a resounding echo throughout the office. Startled, I jumped up from my chair and called out, "Hello?" I assumed it was the same person I had seen earlier, and they might have gotten locked inside the cemetery. However, when I stepped into the lobby, no one was there. I ventured around the visitation room, scanning for any signs of life. Again, I called out, "Hello, is anyone there?" My voice seemed to echo in the empty room. The door slammed shut again, and my heart raced with uncertainty. With a mixture of concern and curiosity, I peered through the windows, hoping to catch a glimpse of the elusive visitor. To my astonishment, I spotted a figure on the other side, looking back at me with a blank expression. I gasped and took a step back, my mind racing to comprehend what I was seeing. The figure bore a striking resemblance to the pictures Carlos had shown me of his beloved father, Diego. It was like a spectral echo from the past, leaving me in both awe and disbelief. Summoning my courage, I stepped closer to the window, squinting to get a clearer look. The figure remained stoic, as if observing me from beyond the veil of existence. It was an inexplicable encounter that sent shivers down my spine. In that moment, the realization hit me like a lightning bolt. This was no ordinary visitor or a figment of my imagination. This was the spirit of Diego, lingering between this world and the next. My mind grappled with the strangeness of the situation, but deep down I felt a sense of peace and reassurance. Diego's spirit seemed to be watching over the cemetery, making sure his final resting place was in good hands. With a heavy heart, I ran out of the front door, hoping to catch another glimpse of Diego's spirit, but he was gone. The raindrops fell gently on my skin as I scanned the area, searching for any sign of his presence. Though I couldn't explain the encounter, I believed that Diego's spirit had crossed the boundary between the living and the departed to ensure his peace. I felt honored and humbled to have been a witness to this mysterious and spiritual event. In the days that followed, I couldn't shake off the profound impact of the encounter. I shared the story with my wife, who listened with a mix of awe and wonder. The memory of Diego's spirit lingered in my heart, serving as a poignant reminder of the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding. As time went on, Carlos continued to visit his father's grave, leaving flowers and prayers. I occasionally caught glimpses of him amidst the tombstones, and I knew that he too felt the presence of his father's spirit among the graves. Greenhaven Cemetery remained a place of tranquility and peace, and I carried the memory of Diego's spirit with me throughout my career. The encounter had transformed my perspective on life and death, making me appreciate the connections we forge in this world and beyond. From that day on, I approached my role with even greater sensitivity, knowing that every family I interacted with had a unique story and an unbreakable bond with their departed loved ones. I treated each funeral service with utmost care and reverence, understanding that these moments were not just ceremonies but a celebration of a life well lived. And so, Whispers Among the Graves became an unforgettable chapter in my life, a mysterious encounter that defied explanation but instilled a sense of wonder and awe in my heart. Greenhaven Cemetery became more than just a workplace. It became a sanctuary where the spirits of the departed seemed to whisper their stories, guiding me to serve with compassion and love. A few years ago, I lost my beloved grandfather, with whom I shared a deep and special connection. This past July, on his birthday, I embarked on a journey to the serene Memorial Park where he and my grandmother had chosen to rest eternally. The cemetery was about an hour's drive from my apartment, and while my family made the trip together, I decided to go separately. The weather that day mirrored the somber mood that hung in the air, as raindrops gently fell from the gray clouds above. The gatekeeper at the entrance requested the plot number I provided, granting me entry into the sprawling cemetery. Although I had visited a couple of times before, this was my first time navigating there alone, and I struggled to locate the specific plot amidst the expanse of gravestones. The gloomy weather seemed to have deterred most visitors, and I found myself practically alone in the cemetery. I pressed on, driven by my determination to honor my grandfather's memory. Eventually, I stumbled upon his resting place, nestled amidst the greenery. Parking my car on the grass beside his grave, I laid down a bouquet of flowers as a tribute. With my eyes closed, I spent some time in silent contemplation, offering my heartfelt prayers. Upon completing my moment of reflection, I opened my eyes and looked up, only to find an elderly man standing a few rows away, his gaze fixed directly on me. Astonishingly, the figure bore an uncanny resemblance to my grandfather, but the idea seemed implausible. I blinked several times and he vanished into thin air. Doubt gnawed at me. Had I encountered a spiritual presence, or were my eyes merely deceiving me? An eerie sensation swept over me, sending shivers down my spine. Feeling disconcerted, I retreated to my car, whispering my affectionate farewell to my grandfather before driving away. A throbbing headache crept upon me during the journey home, perplexing me further. The rain-soaked Prospect Road stretched ahead, devoid of other travelers, and my unease grew with every mile. Unexpectedly, I spotted a lone figure by the roadside, which was peculiar since there were no pedestrian paths in that desolate stretch. I decelerated, my heart pounding wildly as the realization hit me. It resembled my grandfather once more. The shock overwhelmed me, causing me to lose control of my car momentarily. My vehicle skidded before finally halting in the middle of the road. Trembling, I peered back, only to find a deer gazing at my vehicle from the side of the road. A mixture of fear and confusion churned within me, and I knew I had to reach the safety of my home. Ensuring the road was clear, I resumed my journey, my mind awash with the inexplicable encounters of the day. A sense of unease lingered as I navigated the road, haunted by the memories of my grandfather's appearances. Upon returning home, I attempted to find solace by immersing myself in a TV show episode before retiring for the night. In the quiet hours of the early morning, my phone pierced the silence with an unknown number flashing on the screen. Anxiety gripped me, sensing that a call at this hour could only bring bad news. Bracing myself, I answered the call, greeted by a wall of static on the other end. Tentatively, I spoke a greeting, only to be met with more static. And then, amidst the interference, I was almost certain I heard my grandfather's voice for a fleeting moment. My heart raced and my body trembled uncontrollably. The call abruptly ended, leaving me rattled to the core. Seeking answers, I contacted my phone provider, but they claimed to be unable to trace the call due to insufficient data. The events of that day and night remained etched in my memory as the most chilling and perplexing experiences I had ever encountered. As I pondered whether my grandfather had attempted to communicate from beyond, I wrestled with my own disbelief. The fear and uncertainty I felt overshadowed any joy that one might expect from such encounters. To this day, I am haunted by the question, could it truly have been my grandfather's presence reaching out to me through those mysterious occurrences? Amidst the cool embrace of an October night, I, Jason, found myself dwelling in the heart of a quaint, time-worn town. With its ancient 18th century architecture and struggling economy, the town seemed to exude an air of nostalgia. Seeking adventure and exhilaration, my close companion Ethan and I embarked on a spontaneous journey one fateful evening. Unfazed by the eerie hour of 3 a.m., we cruised the narrow streets, the heavy notes of metal music punctuating the night air. A shared love for metal and a joint musical venture had forged a bond between us, igniting a spirit of mischief that led us to our next exploit. Bored of the aimless drive, we decided to explore the enigmatic domain of the town's sprawling cemetery, concealed behind the curtain of the Old Town Square. This cemetery, a colossal expanse divided by a twin-lane highway, encompassed a staggering 20 acres. The gnarled branches of ancient trees and the gravestones shrouded in a cloak of moss beckoned us to the older section. Separated by a time-worn iron fence and gate, this segment held the resting places of those who had departed a century ago. As we traversed the graveyard, tracing the etchings on the time-worn tombstones and capturing the scene through our lenses, an irreverent amusement overtook us. Our actions seemed harmless. After all, the souls beneath the earth had likely transcended earthly concerns. Under the boughs of a towering pecan tree, we found our perch, basking in the tranquility of the midnight haven. Suddenly, like a gossamer whisper carried on the breeze, the joyful laughter of a young girl reached our ears. Its proximity was undeniable, leading my mind to rationalize it as a toy on a child's grave. Yet a sense of unease lingered beneath my bravado. Ethan and I exchanged knowing glances, acknowledging the eerie oddity of the situation and attempted to dismiss it with laughter. However, the ambience took a chilling turn as an unshakable sensation of being observed crept over me. A shadow, seemingly woven from the night itself, clung to the fringes of our vision. Ethan, more attuned to his surroundings, pointed out a figure lurking within the dark enclaves of the adjacent woodland. A tinge of fear colored our laughter, and we opted to depart, eager to distance ourselves from the strange presence. Retreating from the ancient graves, the haunting laughter accompanied our every step, a phantom chorus that felt disconcertingly attached to our movements. Panic seeped into our veins, triggering an instinctual flight response. As adrenaline surged, we raced down the hill that sloped towards the older cemetery's entrance. The spectral laughter seemed to trail behind us, the sound of it twisting and spiraling through the night air. Finally, reaching the safety of my parked car, I hastily ignited the engine and sped away, the unfamiliar sensation of true terror still coursing through my veins. At the solitary gas station open during these dark hours, we scrutinized the car's interior for any traces of tampering. The back doors left ajar defied explanation. Our certainty about not having opened them was matched only by the unease that had taken root within us. Despite our hurried exit, confusion still reigned over that fateful night's events. Had our actions been born of exaggerated paranoia, or had we indeed stumbled upon a supernatural occurrence? In recounting our tale, the nagging suspicion persisted, an inkling that unfathomable forces lurked beyond the veil of the mundane, ready to disrupt our perceptions and disrupt the boundary between the living and the beyond.